My sister said I went AWOL at my promotion dinner. She said it loudly enough for the soldiers at the next table to hear. We were in the Installation Community Center, under a banner that said Welcome Home and CONGRATULATIONS, surrounded by paper flags, catered chicken, and the kind of polite applause people give when they are waiting for the official ceremony to begin. My unit had invited families that night because 3 of us were being recognized after deployment, and the promotion orders were supposed to be read the next morning. Supposed to be. My sister Brianna stood near the dessert table in a red dress she had bought with money she still owed me, holding a glass of punch like it was champagne. Then she looked at me in my Army service uniform and smiled. "Tell them why they stopped your promotion," she said. The conversation around us thinned. My mother put one hand over her mouth, but she did not look surprised. My father looked at the floor. My aunt glanced between us with that excited discomfort families get when humiliation arrives wearing good shoes. I stayed seated. Brianna took one step closer. "Go ahead, Lena," she said. "Tell them how your command found out you went AWOL." A captain at the next table turned his head. My mother whispered, "Brianna, not here," but she said it the way people say stop when they really mean continue softer. Brianna did not continue softer. She left her post, my sister said. She abandoned duty and then lied about it because she wanted this promotion so badly. My father closed his eyes. I looked at him first, then at my mother, then at my sister, who had spent 3 weeks trying to destroy something I had earned over 11 years, and still thought the uniform made me too disciplined to answer in public. I said nothing. I folded my hands under the table. Because 16 minutes earlier, Lieutenant Colonel Dana Reeves had texted me from the administrative office across the hall. "The call recording is verified. Let her speak." So I did. I let my sister say AWOL in a room full of soldiers. I let my mother look wounded. I let my father look ashamed, without saying whether he was ashamed of her or ashamed of me. And 5 minutes later, my commander walked into that room with a JAG officer beside her and a speaker phone in her hand. Before I tell you what was on the voicemail, ask yourself this. If your own family tried to ruin your military career in front of the people you served with, would you defend yourself immediately, or would you let the record arrive first? My name is Lena Morneau. I was 34 years old, a sergeant first class in the United States Army, and I had spent most of my life being the daughter people trusted only when they needed something handled. That is different from being respected. Respect asks what something cost you. Usefulness only asks whether you can do it again. I joined the Army at 20. My mother cried for 2 days and told every neighbor she was terrified. By the 2nd year, she was telling the same neighbors she had raised a soldier because she believed pride should be collected even from choices she had not supported. My father was quieter. He had worked warehouse jobs most of his life and believed stability was the highest virtue until stability came from a daughter who did not ask permission. Then it became distance, then ambition, then attitude. Brianna was my younger sister by 4 years. She was beautiful in the way that made relatives forgive things before they understood them. Late rent became bad luck. A lost job became toxic management. A bounced check became a bank mistake. A boyfriend taking her car became love making her vulnerable. When I made mistakes, they were character flaws. When Brianna made them, they were weather. For years, I helped anyway. That is what reliable daughters do before they learn the difference between love and conditioning. I paid a utility bill when my mother was short. I covered my father's medication after his insurance changed. I sent Brianna $800 for a lease deposit she said would help her restart. I paid for a storage unit I later found out contained only old salon chairs, 2 broken mirrors, and a treadmill nobody had used since 2018. Every time I sent money, my mother called it family. Every time I hesitated, she called it forgetting where I came from. By the time I deployed, I had started saying no more often. Not rudely, not dramatically, just no. That was when my family began calling me hard. Deployment made it worse. I was part of a sustainment unit attached to a larger operation overseas. My job was movement coordination, routes, manifests, convoy timings, supply accountability, equipment handoffs, and the kind of paperwork no one respects until it is wrong and people start waiting for parts that do not arrive. It was not glamorous. It was important. For 10 months, I lived by rosters, signatures, check-ins, and accountability logs. I knew where I was supposed to be, when I was supposed to be there, who verified it, and what form proved it afterward. That is why the AWOL accusation was almost insulting in its stupidity. Almost. It started with a phone call from my mother during month 7. She said Brianna had a chance to open a small beauty studio with a friend. She needed $20,000 for equipment and a lease guarantee. My mother said this opportunity was different. My father said a family with one successful child should help the child who was still trying. Brianna got on the call and said, "You don't even spend your money over there." I remember the silence after that sentence. Not because the connection failed. Because something in me went still. I said, "No." Brianna laughed. "You always say no now. I have said yes to you for 10 years. "Wow," she said, "so now you're keeping score." "No," I finally looked at the scoreboard. She hung up first. My mother called back 6 minutes later and told me I had humiliated my sister. From another continent. That was the gift my family had. They could take an ordinary boundary and make it sound like violence. After that, the messages changed. Brianna sent fewer requests and more little cuts. Must be nice to hide overseas. Mom cried again today. Dad says you don't sound like yourself. You're not the only one serving something. Some of us are stuck here cleaning up real life. I saved them. Not because I knew I would need them. Because the Army teaches you that memory is useful, but documentation is better. The AWOL report hit 3 weeks before we were scheduled to redeploy home. My first sergeant called me into a small office after evening accountability. His face gave away nothing, which told me the matter was serious enough to require discipline in the telling. "Morno," he said, "an allegation came in through a stateside contact channel." I sat down. "What kind of allegation?" "That you left your assigned duty location without authorization during a field movement window in May, and that your absence was concealed by false reporting." For a moment, I did not understand the words. Not because they were complicated. Because they had no place in reality. In May, I had been on a movement control rotation with 12-hour shifts and overlapping logs so dense they could bore a rock to sleep. I had signed 4 convoy manifests, 3 equipment transfer sheets, 2 maintenance exception reports, and 1 incident statement about a pallet of medical supplies that had been mislabeled. There were gate scans, meal card records, radio logs, and half a dozen people who had seen me every day because they complained to me in person. "Who made the allegation?" I asked. My first sergeant's jaw moved once. "It came in as a family concern. Your sister's name is attached to at least 1 call." I looked down at my hands. They were steady. That surprised me. Maybe because some betrayals are so clear that emotion has to wait outside until the facts finish entering. The allegation triggered an administrative review. Not because anyone believed it immediately, but because the Army does not ignore an AWOL claim simply because it sounds ridiculous. My promotion packet, which had already been moving forward, was temporarily flagged pending verification. Temporarily. That word looks harmless on paper. It does not feel harmless when 11 years of work pauses, because your sister learned enough military language from your mother's Facebook posts to aim badly, but still hit something. I called Brianna that night. She did not answer. I called my mother. She answered on the 5th ring. "Did Brianna call my command?" I asked. My mother sighed, like I had interrupted a peaceful evening. "Your sister was worried." About what? About who you've become. That is not an answer. You disappear for months, you refuse to help, you talk to us like we are strangers, and then you expect everyone to clap when you come home with another stripe. Another stripe. That was how my mother described promotion. Not leadership, not responsibility, not years of evaluations, schools, deployments, missed holidays, and being accountable for soldiers younger than Brianna had been when everyone still called her fragile. Another stripe. I said, "Did she make a false report?" My mother's voice hardened. "If it's false, you'll have nothing to worry about." There it was. The sentence of people who throw knives from a distance and call your bleeding proof of weakness. I reported the call to my first sergeant. Then I went to JAG. Captain Miles Avery was the legal assistance officer attached to our command for administrative matters. He was calm, tired-looking, and precise in the way good military lawyers are precise. He did not ask how I felt first. He asked what records existed. I gave him everything. Duty rosters, movement logs, gate scans, meal records, email chains, my mother's statement, Brianna's messages, my call log. He built a folder with tabs. I respected him immediately. "Your promotion flag should lift once the review completes," he said. Should. He looked at me over the folder. People can lie quickly. Clearing a lie takes process. I hated that because it was true. For the next 2 weeks, I did my job while the accusation moved through channels behind me. The people who mattered believed me. That helped. It did not erase the humiliation of knowing a file existed with my name beside the letters AWOL. Soldiers did not ask directly. They were kind enough not to. But kindness has its own sound. A pause before someone says your name. A quick change of topic. A joke that stops 1 second too early. I had spent years building trust, and now my sister's voice had placed a question mark where a record should have been. The review moved faster than I expected, because the allegation was sloppy. Brianna had said I went missing during a 48-hour period in May. During that exact window, I appeared on 4 separate accountability systems. She claimed my absence was covered by a male sergeant whose name she did not know. The logs showed my supervisor was a female warrant officer who would have eaten glass before falsifying accountability for anyone. Then the recording arrived. Brianna had called twice. The first call was to a public command contact, number listed online. The second was transferred to a duty desk. Both were recorded for administrative purposes. I did not hear the audio immediately. Captain Avery and Lieutenant Colonel Reeves reviewed it first. Then my commander called me in. Lieutenant Colonel Dana Reeves was not a woman who wasted emotion on the wrong part of a problem. She had the kind of voice that could make an entire conference room sit straighter without getting louder. She told me the allegation had been found unsupported. My promotion packet would move forward. Then she said, "There is more." I waited. The second call includes statements from your sister that suggest malicious intent. She admits she wants the promotion delayed. She also states your family needs you humbled before you come home. My skin went cold. Humbled. That was my family's word for punished, without admitting punishment. Colonel Reeves watched my face. "You are not required to listen to the recording." "I want to." Captain Avery pressed play. Brianna's voice came through the small office speaker, tinny and familiar. "I'm telling you, she's not who she says she is. She left where she was supposed to be. She does this. She disappears and then acts like she's better than us because nobody can check." A man on the duty desk asked what her relationship was to me. "I'm her sister." He asked why she believed I had been absent. "Because she told us she couldn't call for 2 days, and that's what she does when she lies." That was it. That was her evidence. A 2-day communication, blackout during a movement window. Then came the part that made the room change. The duty desk voice had allegations like that were serious. Brianna laughed. Well, good. Maybe it'll stop her promotion. Maybe then she'll remember she has family instead of acting like the army owns her. I looked at the speaker. My commander stopped the recording. Not because it was over. Because she had heard enough. Captain Avery said, "We have the rest transcribed." I said nothing for a moment. I had expected anger. Instead, I felt clarity. There is a strange peace that comes when a person finally says the quiet part in a room where it can be preserved. Colonel Reeves leaned forward slightly. "Sergeant First Class Morno, your promotion ceremony will proceed." "Yes, ma'am." "I understand your family is planning to attend the recognition dinner." I had forgotten that. Before the allegation, I had invited them out of habit more than hope. My mother had already told everyone online that her daughter was coming home decorated and promoted, because public pride cost her nothing. "I can uninvite them," I said. "You can," Colonel Reeves said, "or you can let the matter resolve in front of the people they chose to involve." Captain Avery looked at her. She looked back at him. Then she looked at me. "That is your decision." I thought about it for a long time. A younger version of me would have protected them from the consequences. I would have uninvited them privately, told myself I was taking the high road, and spent the next decade listening to them describe me as dramatic anyway. But my family had tried to stop my promotion through official channels. They had chosen the army as the room. So I let the army answer. The recognition dinner was the night before the ceremony. Families arrived in waves of perfume, dress shoes, children running between tables, soldiers pretending they were comfortable being praised in public. There were unit banners along the wall and framed photos from the deployment playing on a screen near the podium. My mother arrived dressed like she had produced the army herself. She hugged me too tightly and said, "Look at you." Not "I'm proud." Not "I'm sorry." Look at you. My father shook my hand instead of hugging me. He had been doing that more lately, as if rank had moved me out of daughter territory and into some category where affection required permission. Brianna kissed my cheek. Her perfume was sharp. "You nervous?" she asked. "No." Her eyes flickered. "Really, I heard there were delays." I looked at her for 1 second too long. Then I said, "Temporary." She smiled. During dinner, my mother talked loudly about sacrifice. My father told a captain he had always believed military service builds character. Brianna sat beside me, scrolling through her phone and occasionally glancing toward the podium where the promotion certificates were stacked. At 8:15, Lieutenant Colonel Reeves stepped to the microphone. She welcomed families. She thanked the soldiers. She spoke about logistics work nobody sees and why unseen work keeps missions alive. Then she said, "Before tomorrow's promotion ceremony, there is one administrative matter that must be corrected publicly because the allegation was allowed to become public within a family setting." The room changed. My mother's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Brianna looked up. Colonel Reeves did not look at my family first. She looked at me. "Sergeant First Class Morno." I stood. My chair made a small sound against the floor. She continued. "An allegation was submitted questioning your duty status during deployment. That allegation delayed administrative processing of your promotion packet." Several heads turned. Brianna's mouth curved. Just slightly. She thought this was it. She thought my commander was about to confirm the shame she had planted. Colonel Reeves said, "The allegation has been fully reviewed and found false." Brianna's smile disappeared. My mother looked at her. Colonel Reeves continued. "For the record, Sergeant First Class Morno's duty status during the disputed period is verified by command logs, accountability rosters, gate records, movement documentation, and witness statements. There was no AWOL status, no abandonment of duty, and no misconduct." A silence opened in the room. Not confusion. Recognition. People understood enough. My father slowly lowered his gaze. Then Colonel Reeves said, "Because the source of the allegation made statements indicating malicious intent, and because the same source is present tonight and has continued the accusation in front of witnesses, I am going to allow the relevant portion of the verified call to be heard." Captain Avery stepped forward with a small speaker. Brianna stood up. "You can't do that." Colonel Reeves looked at her. "Ms. Moore, no. You contacted a military duty line to report alleged misconduct by a soldier. That call was recorded, preserved, and reviewed as part of an official administrative process. You were advised during the call that false statements could have consequences." Brianna looked at my mother. My mother whispered, "Bri." That one syllable told me enough. She knew. Maybe not every word. Enough. Captain Avery pressed play. My sister's voice filled the room. "Maybe it'll stop her promotion. Maybe then she'll remember she has family instead of acting like the army owns her." The recording ended there. No one moved. Brianna's face had gone completely white. My mother closed her eyes. My father's hands were flat on the table. The soldiers in the room did not laugh. They did not whisper. That almost made it worse. Military rooms know how to punish without noise. Colonel Reeves looked at me. "Sergeant First Class Morneau, your promotion packet has been cleared. The ceremony proceeds tomorrow." I said, "Yes, ma'am." My voice was steady. My hands were not. Then my commander looked at Brianna. "The Army does not exist to discipline your relatives because you resent their boundaries." That sentence landed harder than shouting. Brianna opened her mouth, but nothing came out. My mother began crying. Not loudly. Just enough for the table. I sat down. For the first time in my life, nobody asked me to comfort her. The dinner continued, but it was not the same dinner. Families have weather systems. You can feel when pressure changes. My aunt left early. My father took Brianna outside for 10 minutes and came back alone. My mother tried to speak to me near the hallway. "Lena," she said, "your sister was upset." I looked at her. The hallway lights were too bright. I remember that. Strange what details stay. She tried to damage my career. She didn't understand what would happen. "Yes," I said, "she did, that was the point." My mother's face crumpled. "You've changed." I almost smiled. That was her final defense against every boundary. "You've changed." As if remaining available for harm were proof of love. "I hope so," I said. She flinched. My father came over next. He did not defend Brianna. That was new. He said, "I should have stopped it." That was not an apology. But it was the first sentence he had ever given me that placed himself inside the problem. "Yes," I said. He nodded once. Maybe he expected more. I did not give it. The next morning, I was promoted. The ceremony was small, official, and strangely peaceful. My family did not attend. My mother texted that it was too raw. Brianna sent nothing. My father sent one message. "You earned this." I looked at those 3 words for a long time. Then I put the phone away and stepped forward when my name was called. 2 soldiers from my unit pinned the rank. People clapped. The room did not explode into cinematic justice. No one dragged my sister away. My mother did not stand at the back sobbing apology. My father did not make a speech. It was better than that. It was clean. An earned thing happened without my family standing close enough to claim part of it. Afterward, Colonel Reeves shook my hand. "Congratulations, Sergeant First Class." "Thank you, ma'am." Captain Avery handed me a copy of the administrative closure memo. "Keep it," he said. "I keep everything." I assumed. That almost made me laugh. The fallout took months. Brianna did not face criminal charges, which disappointed some people when they heard the story later. But she did receive a formal warning through the appropriate channels, and the report she made became a documented false allegation. More importantly, she lost something she valued far more than legal innocence. The family story. For years, Brianna had survived by telling the first version. If she spoke first, cried first, hurt first, everyone else spent the rest of the argument responding to her weather. This time, the first version was recorded. Her voice, her motive, her words. Maybe it'll stop her promotion. My mother tried to reframe it for a while. Brianna was scared. Brianna felt abandoned. Brianna did not understand military procedures. Brianna only wanted her sister back. I let her talk. Then I would say, "The call is recorded." That sentence ended everything. My father changed quietly. Not enough to become a different man. People rarely transform just because truth embarrasses them. But he stopped asking me to send money. He stopped calling boundaries attitude. Once, when my mother began saying family should not keep score, he said, "Maybe we should have kept better score." She did not speak to him for the rest of the evening. I heard that from my aunt. I did not visit much after that. Distance, once established, becomes easier to protect. Brianna called me 3 months later from a blocked number. I knew it was her before she spoke. Some silences have signatures. "Lena," she said. "Brianna." I was angry. "I know. You always got to leave." There it was, the oldest accusation, the one under all the others. "You think the army was leaving?" I asked. "You got out." "No," I said. "I worked my way out, there's a difference." She cried then. I let her. I did not enjoy it, but I did not rescue her from it either. She said, "I didn't think they'd play it." "No," I said, "you thought I'd hide it." That was the real betrayal. Not only the call, not only the accusation, but the confidence that I would protect her from the consequences of trying to ruin me. There was a long silence. Then she said, "I'm sorry." I believed she regretted it. That is not the same as trusting her. "I hope you mean that someday in a way that changes you," I said. Then I hung up. A year later, I listened to the recording again. Not because I needed to, because I was cleaning out old folders before a move and found the administrative packet. I sat at my kitchen table, opened the file, and saw the transcript page. Maybe it'll stop her promotion. The sentence looked smaller on paper than it had sounded in that room. That happens with lies. Once they lose the room, they shrink. I did not play the audio after all. I closed the folder and placed it in a locked box with deployment records, evaluations, certificates, and old letters from soldiers I had supervised who later outranked me and still called for advice. That box means more to me than my family understands. It contains proof of a life they kept trying to reduce to selfishness. If you have ever had people resent the very discipline they benefit from, you know what I mean. If you have ever been called cold by someone who depended on your steadiness, you know. If you have ever built something slowly while your family waited for the moment they could pull it back into their own needs, you know. The night my sister said I went AWOL, she thought the word would stain me in a place I could not wash clean. She forgot that I had spent 11 years in a profession built on accountability. Where were you? Who verified it? What does the log say? Who made the call? What did they say when they thought no one would hold it? Those are not emotional questions. That is why they work. My promotion was not saved by shouting. It was saved by rosters, gate scans, movement logs, witness statements, and a recording my sister never imagined would be played in a room where my silence had finally run out of work to do. I still talk to my father sometimes. Not often. My mother sends holiday texts that sound like press releases. Brianna and I are not close. Maybe we never were. Maybe closeness that depends on one person always paying is just debt with better lighting. I do not wear that promotion like revenge. I wear it like weathered metal. It cost what it cost. And the night my commander played my sister's voicemail, the room did not just hear her voice. It heard mine too. Not speaking. Not pleading. Not defending. Just standing there in uniform while the record said everything I had been trained, for years, not to waste on people who only understood proof when it was too late. That is the lesson I kept. Silence is not always dignity. Sometimes silence is discipline. Sometimes it is strategy. And sometimes, when your family has mistaken your restraint for permission, silence is simply the space you leave open so the truth can enter the room and turn on the speaker.